Hey everybody, welcome back to the crossover. I'm Chandler Wilson. With me, per usual, John Lang and my brother Haston Wilson, and also maybe joining Haston Wilson, some cats and perhaps dogs in the background. We'll see about that later in the show. We're glad you're with us. We've got kind of a weird situation going. It is currently Thursday morning at 5:12. 5:12 in the morning that we're recording this, because we tried to record Tuesday night and we had some issue with the recording software and it only picked up my voice and not Haston and John's. And while, I would probably rather listen to that, I figured we would try it again so we could get everybody included. So, good morning, fellas. How's it going?
Good morning, Chandler.
Right.
I am yawning a lot, so
Right.
that might be something that we're dealing with throughout the podcast. But to be honest, I do feel very professional because, like back in the day, Mike and Mike's show, they would start at like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, something like that. So I feel like we're getting into the routine for later on whenever we become like really famous, more famous than we already are from this podcast.
Yeah. Yep, we're on our way. So, whenever we recorded on Tuesday, I hit Haston and John with a surprise trivia question, which was, between YouTube and SoundCloud, how many listens did our podcast have last week? And John, I believe, guessed 22, and Haston guessed 28. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and they were both blown away, and myself included, whenever the answer was 81. We had 81 listens last week, which is just, exceeds our expectations on all accounts. So if you listened to us last week, we thank you for that. We hope you enjoyed it, and we're going to try to give it another go this week and put out a good show for you. We think we've got a good script lined up, even though we've already talked about everything once, so
now
that might be kind of weird.
Yeah,
we practiced. So, Haston and John, here's a surprise trivia question, and it really doesn't have a lot to do with sports. You might have noticed that we added an intro song this week, which was When Love and Hate Collide by Def Leppard. So, John, Haston, the question for you is, what is the best Def Leppard song? And this is not an opinion question. There is a right answer.
I'll let you go first, Haston.
Ooh. I don't know how you could say this is not an opinion question, because
no, there is a song that lyrically and musically and from a performance standpoint is their best song.
Well, I would have to probably get. Everybody likes Pour Some Sugar on Me, but I think you've got to go with Hysteria. That's lyrically, that one I think is off the charts. It's really good. Rock of Ages is good, but I'm going to go with Hysteria.
I was going to go in the direction of Rock of Ages, personally.
Yeah,
but it's not an opinion question. What is the correct answer, Chandler?
John, you're close. Rock of Ages is towards the top. Haston, you nailed it. Hysteria is by far and away their best song. So, all right, with that, congrats, Haston. We'll let Haston, he's going to read the scripture of the week for us, brought to you by the Richmond United Methodist Church.
That's right, Richmond RUMC, open minds, open doors, open hearts. Check out our youth group Wednesday nights at 6. Our scripture for the day, it comes to us from the book of Psalms. It's going to be chapter 37, verses 18 through 20. The Lord watches over the blameless all their days, and their inheritance will last forever. They will not be disgraced in times of adversity, but will be satisfied in days of hunger. But the wicked will perish. The Lord's enemies, like the glory of the pastures, will fade away. They will fade away like smoke. That was our scripture of the day, brought to you by Richmond United Methodist Church. Okay. Guys, Albert Pujols this past week, he did something pretty impressive. I grew up watching Albert Pujols. I love the guy. Possibly the greatest, or the second greatest, I would say, first baseman of all time. He had his 3,000th hit, joined the 3,000 hit club. Good for him. So, with having 3,000 hits, I mean, the question's got to be asked, what's the most exciting thing that you guys have done 3,000 times?
You know, I thought a lot about this, and you know, whenever I was thinking about this, I was like, well, I've been on the earth about 8,350 days, give or take a few, and you know, with that, it'd have to be something, maybe something I've done about 40% of the days I've been alive. So, you know, that's the angle I took, and I think probably the most exciting thing I've done at least 3,000 times is eat a Pop-Tart for breakfast. It's just a great way to start the day. That's how I started this morning. It's probably why I'm so chipper, you know, at 5:17 in the morning. So, yeah, that's what I'm going with, and it will, without a doubt, be the reason I have some very early onset serious health problems.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You are in for a rough life, my friend. I gave this a lot of thought. This was tough for me because I don't feel like I've done anything 3,000 times that's like way crazy exciting. Not on Albert Pujols level. You know, I think the thing I finally went with was, I mean, this isn't exciting for everyone else. It's gross for everyone else, but I've probably kissed my wife 3,000 times. That's exciting to me. The other thing, I've probably made 3,000 three-pointers in my life. Not like in a game or anything like that, but just like if you include all the three-pointers I've made just goofing around, probably over 3,000.
John, what
On
you
that
got?
note, yeah, I'm going to move on from that one. I thought about it, and I figured that at first, the first thing that my mind went to was that I had watched 3,000 Royals games in my life. I did some math, realized that I have not, in fact, watched every single Royals game for the last 19 years. And
Yeah.
decided that that was not a possibility. So kudos to Albert Pujols. That is very impressive. With that said, I think I've probably run about 3,000 miles in my life. If I haven't quite reached that milestone, I think I'm close. But I haven't tracked it all the way. But I figured it up, and that would be running about 4 miles a day, every day for about 2.5 or 2 to 2.5 years. And considering I've been running for 9 years, I think I've done it.
Well, congrats. We're happy for you. I can't even imagine running 4 miles a day ever. So we're happy for you, John. So, what's that, John, Mr. 3,000 mile man? You want to talk about the Royals, current state of the Royals for us?
Yeah, 2 days ago, I said that the Royals weren't floundering. They have since gotten swept by the Tampa Bay Rays. So, yeah, they are not doing hot. The rotation is scuffling. Things are not going well. With that said, outside of the top couple pitchers in the rotation, they are playing well. And I realize that makes no sense. But if you look at pretty much anybody on the team, they've got at least 2 guys on the top of my brain, Jorge Soler and John Jay, that are hitting over 300. Alex Gordon's playing the best baseball since they won a World Series. Mike Moustakas is having a season that if he were on a good team, he would be in the MVP discussion. Early, obviously, MVP discussion. Jake Junis is having the year of his career so far. Hopefully he continues that for a long time. I could go on. They're playing well. But for whatever reason, the team is a hot dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Hey John, I just got an idea for here's a surprise segment idea that I just got. Are you ready? Hold on to your hats. This new segment idea, and Chandler, you see what you think about this. The question is this rock bottom? And then the segment consists of us just deciding if the team is at rock bottom or not. So, John, the question is to you. For the Kansas City Royals, is this rock bottom?
No.
Oh.
Boy.
Yikes. Yeah, I do like that segment idea. We'll have to, after we get this episode uploaded, we'll have to put that on the poll, see if people like the idea for rock bottom. So our 25 followers on Twitter at the crossover_PC can see what they think about
Good plug.
that. Yep, get that plug in there. So yeah, I like that idea.
I'll finish my thought real quick. This is not rock bottom because we started out the year at rock bottom, I would say, and we were playing horrible. And then we won we won a series, and we were kind of riding that momentum. And I think they kind of got a little cocky. They won 4 out of 7 or something like that, and they've since won 7 of 8 or lost 7 of 8, I think. And so they're still playing well, like I said, and there's always a possibility that they could stop playing well and hit rock bottom.
We'll have to revisit this topic, especially with the Royals after the trade deadline when they trade away all their horses, and then
that might be rock bottom.
See how it's going then. All right, let's move on here. So, NBA playoffs are in full swing right now, guys. LeBron James is amazing. We've discussed it. We've given him all the love we can because it seems like every other media outlet loves to hate on LeBron. He's in trouble right now. Down 2-0 to Boston, or down 0-2, I guess I should say, to Boston. It looks like, Boston's taken both of their home court games, but, it just looks like the Cavs have absolutely no answer for them. They've just been out-hustled and outplayed in every facet pretty much by Boston so far. Just really been domination, which has been kind of surprising to some people, kind of surprising not. I heard Tim Legler talking about the Cavs kind of are who we thought they were, minus the Toronto series. They just played out of their mind and fixed some problems in that series. But other than that, they just really have been who we thought they were during the regular season. A lot of defensive lapses, not an overly athletic roster, a lot of one-dimensional players. So my question to you guys is, how does LeBron's Eastern Conference Finals streak end? Does it end because he leaves the East and goes to a different team this offseason out west, or is he going to get beat? And I think that this discussion looks a little bit different than whenever we recorded it the other day, because now he was only down 1 game the other day, but now he's down 0-2.
Right. Well, when we recorded, it was during Game 2, and Cleveland was, up about 5 or so points for most of the third quarter, until we got done recording. And at that point, still said, yes, he gets beat, probably by Boston in maybe a year or 2 or 3. But man, it's looking rough. We'll see how Game 3 goes. If Cleveland really responds at home, then they're going to have a chance to win the series because they've got LeBron James on their team. They're not out of it by any stretch. But man, down 2-0, their backs are certainly against the wall here. So, it's going to end with him getting beat. I don't think he's going to go out west this summer. If he goes anywhere, I think it'll be Philadelphia or Miami probably. And I don't think he's going to go anywhere. So I'm going to go with he gets beat probably by Boston either. It's looking like maybe this year, but potentially a year or 2 after that.
Yeah, I'll go next. I would say that in this world of hot takes, people love to jump off of LeBron and just say that, the Cavs have no chance. They've played pretty poorly outside of LeBron. That's obvious. But I would say that it's still just 2 games at home, and Boston hasn't lost a home game yet. So they're not the only ones that have had a problem at playing in Boston this postseason. So I would say that, going back home, obviously, if they were down 3-0, I would change my mind. That's quite a bit different than 2-0. But I still think that maybe I'm being blind, but I think LeBron can figure this out and still pull out 4 games. They have to pull 1 game out of Boston, but I think they can do it, and it will be tough, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened this year. With that said, so I think LeBron will get beat, like Chandler said, at some point, whether that's Boston, Philadelphia, or some up-and-coming team that hasn't really presented themselves yet. Maybe the Bucks. That was a shout-out. I say that it happens here in a year or 2, but I don't think it happens this year.
All right, that's bold.
That is.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't disagree, but that's bold.
Mm-hmm. Hot take.
Go ahead.
Alert.
Yeah, I don't like to overreact either. Some people say that a series doesn't actually, or one team's not actually in favor until they win a game on the other team's home court. And I think that honestly, you can probably apply that to this situation. My level of concern is, there's some concern there that Cleveland could get beat this year in the East, but I still am just not overly alarmed until I see Boston thump Cleveland in Cleveland. But with that being said, I think you'd be, kind of crazy to say that LeBron's not going to get beat at some point, especially if he stays in Cleveland and they don't make major roster changes this off season. So that's my take, is that he'll just get beat, and he probably won't leave the East. I don't see any way that he does that. That wouldn't really make sense for him at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just a matter of when, I think. It's crazy to me. It seems like every game LeBron James plays in the playoffs, like, it's going to have a big impact on his legacy. You know what I mean? Which is just, it seems like it'd be a lot of pressure, but maybe for him it isn't. Quick,
I was just going to say something real quick. With this particular series, I don't know what more he can do. I mean, a lot of critics were talking yesterday about how he needs to go down in the post more. And I'm like, okay, like, you need to go down in the post more, but it's a lot harder work down there, and Cleveland was hurting for points. I mean, they were just like struggling to tread water to stay with Boston in Game 2. And LeBron had a 42, I think, point triple-double the other night, so I don't know what more he can do besides that. You got to get the supporting cast involved. J.R. Smith didn't have 1 point the other night. George Hill had like 5 points. And like, you need more from those guys if you're gonna win. So LeBron can only do so much,
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, let's hit the NBA season awards. Starting with Rookie of the Year. It's maybe one of the more interesting discussions. There's the whole, is Ben Simmons really a rookie? Well, yeah, he's a rookie. Like, Donovan Mitchell just needs to calm down. But Donovan Mitchell's had a great year. Ben Simmons is going to be Rookie of the Year just because that's how people are going to vote. That being said, I think Jason Tatum is the best rookie. I think he'll have the best career too. And I said that whenever he got drafted, not that Ben Simmons was in this same draft. But, Boston, I feel like, even though he was the third pick, had a steal at number 3 with Jason Tatum, and I think he'll have the best career. But Ben Simmons will win Rookie of the Year, I think.
Yeah, probably so. I would personally give it to Donovan Mitchell just because he doesn't have the obvious flaw. He's got a more complete game at this point than Ben Simmons does. If Ben Simmons does indeed win the award, very deserving. If you match, if you're saying, okay, Ben Simmons is the number 1 and Donovan Mitchell's number 2, Well, if you match their stats up, like points per game, assists, and rebounds, Ben Simmons has more in every category, so obviously deserving. I just think, for me, it would be tough to give Rookie of the Year to someone who has such an obvious hole in their game with the three-point shooting.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there with that. I would consider myself to be in Jason Tatum's camp quite a bit. I saw him play in high school, was very impressed, and have been rooting for him ever since. So with that said, I would have to give it to Jason Tatum, but I'm biased in that front, so I won't deny that at all.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this, and we'll kind of mention this with other awards, but it just depends so much on when people vote. You know, a lot of the voters have probably had their ballots cast for a few weeks now, which makes a big difference. You know, this should be a short discussion. Most improved player. I heard, you know, Giannis, some people trying to make a case for Giannis, but, I mean, it's got to be Victor Oladipo, without a doubt. I mean, he's been just remarkable this year.
I totally agree. I don't think we need any further discussion on that. He's come out of the woodwork this year. It's been crazy. Who you guys got for Defensive Player of the Year?
Gosh, I mean, you know, I don't even probably don't pay close enough attention.
I mean, Matthew Dellavedova every year, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're the deer.
Probably Rudy Gobert, I guess. Maybe Joel Embiid. I don't even know.
I don't think Joel Embiid played enough, honestly. I mean, I realize he only missed last month or whatever that was, but
yeah, I don't know. Until Joel Embiid plays a full season, I would have trouble giving it to him as well. I don't know. I would lean toward Rudy Gobert. Honestly, Clint Capella had a really good defensive year, I thought. But yeah, I'd probably go Rudy Gobert out in Utah.
Yeah. MVP, they narrowed it down to 3 finalists last night. It's Anthony Davis, LeBron, and James Harden, which, I mean, no surprises there. And when we talked about this on Tuesday night, I don't even think we mentioned Anthony Davis. It was just, you know, James Harden and LeBron. You know, we won't delve as far into this as we did Tuesday night, but we talked about how the title Most Valuable Player is kind of not the right title for the award. It's more of a Player of the Year, Most Outstanding Player kind of thing. I mean, I know MVP sounds better, but it'll be James Harden. I mean, you can't argue with his numbers. But the most valuable player to their team is LeBron, and that's been the case every year for the past decade. You know, and there was an argument there for a few years whenever he came back to Cleveland that if you put LeBron on any team in the East, then that's probably the team that's coming out of the East. You know, that doesn't necessarily hold true anymore. I mean, point in case this year. But yeah, he's the most valuable player to his team. But the most outstanding player, which is what the MVP award has become, is James Harden this year, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if you're going to actually talk about who the most valuable player is, you've got to think, what team would suck the most without that player on it? And obviously that would be Cleveland. They would be one of the worst teams in the league if they didn't have LeBron on it. But Houston, on the other hand, would still probably be pretty darn solid. They'd still definitely be a playoff team, I think, without Harden on it. They've still got CP3 and some shooters. So they would still be pretty good. D'Antoni's a good coach. He would figure it out. So, yeah, Player of the Year, which is, like you said, how the MVP works, James Harden. I mean, phenomenal year, no doubt about it. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think Chandler hit it on the head when he said that LeBron would have been the MVP for the last 10 years if they really awarded it to the MVP. I think he deserves – I don't know off the top of my head how many he has, but I know it's not more than 2 or 3, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I know he deserves way more than that. With that said, James Harden's had an incredible year, done way more than I thought he would with the addition of Chris Paul. So, I mean, you can't argue with giving it to Harden, but yeah, I would go the direction of LeBron for most valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is almost a laughable one to talk about at this point. Coach of the Year, like I said, due to when people vote on this, it's probably going to be Dwayne Casey, which is just hilarious to me since he got canned last week.
Hey, there's a precedent for it. George Karl won Coach of the Year in Denver a few years ago and then got fired. So
right,
it does happen.
But he won and then got fired, which is maybe more outlandish. But Dwayne Casey got fired, and then he's probably going to win Coach of the Year, which I think is just hilarious.
Like posthumously.
Yeah, kind of. You know, there's been a lot of great coaching performances this year. I mean, Brad Stevens has done a great job. I mean, you mentioned D'Antoni. I think just the fact that, I mean, a lot of people, I was certainly one of them, thought that Chris Paul and James Harden would just be an absolute dumpster fire, and they've been really good. And I think part of that, part of that credit definitely goes to Mike D'Antoni. Quinn Snyder's had a good season, as bad as I hate to say it, out in Utah. But it's probably going to be Dwayne Casey, which is just hilarious, I think.
Yeah, it'll probably be Dwayne Casey. I'm actually kind of glad that we got a redo on this one since it didn't record the other night, because I pulled out the short list of my Coach of the Year candidates the other day, and I had, I think, Terry Stotts in Portland. They definitely overachieved. Quinn Snyder, Utah. Nate McMillan in Indiana, they definitely exceeded expectations this year. I mean, and he did a lot with very little. So he would be on my very, very short list, like top 3 coaches probably. And Brad Stevens, and then obviously Dwayne Casey. And then I totally forgot about Alvin Gentry down in New Orleans. And I was really glad that John and I were having this discussion. Nobody thought New Orleans was going to be anything, myself included. I did not think that I knew that Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins were like diverse players. You know, they can do a lot. They're athletic big men. But I didn't think that they were athletic enough that they could make it work down there with both of those bigs. And then after DeMarcus Cousins went down, I was like, okay, they're like not going to be even a playoff team. I mean, I don't think hardly anybody thought whenever that happened, and they were just kind of starting to play well, that they were going to be worth a darn. And they still wound up, didn't they make it to the second round of the playoffs? So
yeah.
And I know that it's a regular season award, but just to be in position to be able to do that says a lot about the coaching job that was done there. So what do you think, John?
Yeah, I would agree. I would consider Rajon Rondo and DeMarcus Cousins to be 2 of the biggest cancers in the NBA. And for Alvin Gentry to navigate through those, and, I mean, not only navigate through having DeMarcus Cousins on your team, but then navigate through having DeMarcus Cousins on your team and then not having him on your team.
Right.
That's tough. And
Yes.
Like, so I'm impressed with the way they did things. And I know at one time they worked their way up to the 3 seed in the West. I think they fell back down to, the 6. I don't know if that's
I think they want to be
5.
In 5, I think.
5.
4 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, they were right in the thick of things in the West. I mean, it was crazy competitive. But, yeah, they did great and did way more than I thought they would.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of good coaches this year. But like we said, it'll probably be Dwayne Casey, and that's just pretty funny to me. So that kind of wraps up our discussion for NBA end of season awards. We're going to get into a new segment we're going to introduce called Back from the Dead. The premise for Back from the Dead is that we all talk about some athlete who, at one point, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, was really at the top of their game, or newsworthy, but kind of disappeared for a while, and now they're sort of resurfacing, and they're back from the dead. So mine, you'll probably never hear us talk about soccer outside of the World Cup, maybe, but not this year because the U.S. isn't in it, so we probably won't even mention it. But Wayne Rooney, former, well, I guess current still, striker, he just signed with DC United at age 32. DC United is the MLS team in Washington, D.C. And, I was thinking about how long ago Wayne Rooney must have been popular, and I was like, I think I remember seeing him on the cover of FIFA in like 2010 or something. Well, the reason I remember that, I did some research. He was on the cover of FIFA from 2006 to 2012. That's incredible.
That is.
Yeah.
So the Madden curse must not apply to FIFA then, no, because if he continued to have good years for that long, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it must not. That being said, apparently there's usually like 2 cover athletes for FIFA, but still, that's a long time to be on the cover of a video game. 8 straight years. Last year he scored 10 goals in the Premier League, which is okay, I think. I think relatively speaking it's not quite top tier, but like it's still solid production. But yeah, he's with DC United now at age 32. I would have expected him to be much older than that just because he looks like he's 40. He's looked like he's 40, since he was 22 apparently. So yep, Wayne Rooney, welcome back from the dead.
That's great. Yeah, my back from the dead, a name you probably remember. I definitely thought that he had retired, but apparently he was a late season acquisition. I think a trade deadline acquisition for the Houston Rockets. My back from the dead is ISO Joe Johnson.
Yes.
He has been in the playoffs 13 times in his career. That's pretty solid. Nobody thinks about Joe Johnson as like really being like a postseason like regular guy, but he's played for 17 seasons in the NBA and been in the playoffs 13 times and no ring to show for it yet. So Joe Johnson is really hoping that Houston can get past Golden State here so he can finally get a ring and sail off into the sunset. He, I don't think, has played at all yet in this series. Maybe a little bit, but not very much.
I can't imagine.
Definitely contributing some veteran leadership to that.
That's
team.
right. There we go. He could still get you a bucket if he's allowed to take Golden State 1-on-5, which he will do. He will hit a turnaround mid-range jumper, and if they need him in the clutch, he can do that. Still, I have faith in ISO Joe.
Welcome back, ISO Joe. Back from the dead. I was going to go the route of Bartolo Colon just because, he's fat and lovable. Yesterday he got hit in the belly with a fastball, and he laughed about it. So how awesome is that?
Yeah, he got hit. It was like over 100 miles an hour right to his beer gut, and he just like chuckled like he was Santa Claus or something.
Right. So, you got to love that. With that said, I'm going to go with Nick Markakis. The most average, under-the-radar player you'll ever find in the major leagues. Honestly, I knew he played in the AL East for most of his career. I couldn't have told you even what team, though. He played for Baltimore for about 7 years. This is year 13, I believe. This is his 12th season. He's never had an All-Star. The highest he's ever finished in a major award voting was he got 6th in Rookie of the Year, his rookie year.
Wow.
No All-Star. He's got 2 Gold Gloves under his belt, but yeah, I feel like a lot of players have 2 Gold Gloves. It's impressive, but Alex Gordon won it last year, and that doesn't say much. Got 21 hits in his career, which is just incredible to me because he's 2/3 of the way to 3,000, which we were just talking about with Albert Pujols, is quite an impressive number. And I think it would be. He's playing well still. He led the league in hits at the time of our last recording. I haven't checked stats since. But he is playing well still this year, and so if he would string together about 4 or 5 more years of solid production, he'll be knocking on the door of 3,000 hits, which will just lead to a very interesting discussion of whether he's a Hall of Famer or not. Because if you get 3,000 hits, a lot of people consider that to be an auto bid to Cooperstown. But I can't imagine putting somebody in Cooperstown without an all-star under their belt.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Well, Nick Markakis, welcome back from the dead. Real quick before we wrap up our show here, we'll hit a few over-unders. This segment we think is probably going to be a staple every week. First over-under. We were talking about LeBron earlier and how his Eastern Conference final streak might be in jeopardy. LeBron James, career titles at retirement. The line is 4.5. He has 3 right now. Over under 4.5. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I'm going to take this one first. I think he gets number 4. I don't know if that's this year, next year, whether he hops on a team with some other stars in a couple years when he's still playing well but not really at his peak anymore. I'd say he gets 4. I don't think he gets a 5th one. I think there's just too many teams out there that are just knocking, just their goal is to beat LeBron, and they build themselves around that. I don't think he'll get number 5. I think he'll get number 4, though, so I'll take the under.
I did have one interesting thought. I don't think LeBron is going to go out west, but if he does, wouldn't it make sense for him to go to Houston right now? I mean, with the way that they're playing. And if he wants to go to Houston, Houston can make it happen somehow. But just imagine LeBron out there playing alongside CP3 and Harden and got all those shooters around him. I think that would be a potential way for them to maybe get past the Warriors, maybe. We'll see what happens with the rest of this series, and that'll kind of give us a good gauge of where things are at. But, yeah, I tend to agree with you, John. I think he's going to get a 4th one at some point, even if he's, aging and he just hops on with the team, that he can still, obviously, he's LeBron, he can contribute. But, yeah, maybe he's a little bit past his playing prime. So, yeah, I'm going to take the under. I don't think he gets 5.
I think that an important element of this discussion is the potential longevity of LeBron James's career. And I think his longevity and how long he will play at a very high level, it could be like something we've never seen before. I mean, he's 32, 33 now, something like that.
Yeah, I think he's 33.
He could be playing at a very high level. He could still be the best player in the league 5 years from now and still be playing at a high level till he's 40. I mean, I don't think that's unrealistic. Just the way he takes care of his body and just how well he's built and put together. So I don't think it's unrealistic to say he would get 5. That being said, it's going to be tough. I mean, for all the reasons you guys mentioned. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he gets 4. I'm going to take the under just because I think it's going to be tough to get 5, especially the way things are going this year. I don't think, I think if he was going to get 5, he would have to get number 4 this year. And I mean, even if they get out of the East, as good as the Warriors are, I mean, I just don't know that it could happen. So I'll take the under as well. With that, we were talking about how good the Warriors are. Our next over-under, Hall of Famers on the current Golden State Warriors roster. Over-under 3.5. What do you guys got?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, okay. So I'll knock out a couple easy ones. Kevin Durant, Hall of Famer. Steph Curry, Hall of Famer. Now it gets a little dicey. We throw in Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green. So the line's 3.5. Do 2 of those 3 make it into the Hall of Fame? I would lean to say yes. I think Andre Iguodala, from his years in Philadelphia, combined with all those rings and he hasn't been the star on this Golden State team, which is okay because he's been a major contributor, in my opinion, to a team that, in all likelihood, will win their third title this year, been to the finals 4 years in a row. I mean, I think you got to take into account that, and I also think that at least either Draymond or Clay will make it. I wouldn't be surprised if both of them made it when all is said and done. So I'll pass it on to one of you guys to elaborate more if you want.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the discussion isn't, is it going to be, more or less than 3.5? Because, I'd say Steph Curry, barring some major injury, even maybe with a major injury, and Kevin Durant are both locks. So then you get those three guys, you said, Clay, Draymond, and Iggy. Those three guys, do two of those three make it? The thing about Iguodala that I think is really going to help his case, he won a Finals MVP on this team, and a well-deserved Finals MVP. So I think that's a big factor. Draymond, I think, depending on how well his body holds up, if he can stay healthy, I think he probably would get in. I think his career is going to wind up looking pretty similar to Dennis Rodman's when it's all said and done. And then you get to Clay. I think whenever, what the Warriors have isn't going to last forever. And when it does eventually break up, I think Clay will probably be the first to go. And depending where he lands, he could be the best player on some teams. So if that's the case, he ends up going somewhere like that and, maybe doesn't win any more titles but puts up some impressive numbers, maybe even gets in the MVP race down the road. Yeah, I think he very well could get into. So I'm going to take the over as well. I think at least two of those three guys will get in.
Yeah, so I think you can say that you've got at least three guys on the current roster for sure. Zaza Pachulia, he's a lock. JaVale McGee, no doubter there. And then you've got Swaggy P, Nick Young. He's a first ballot.
No doubt.
The question really comes down to, is David West, has he had a solid enough career to get in? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're spot on there. All right, so we're going to get into one football one real quick for over-unders. The Cleveland Browns, fellas, are buzzing. There's a lot of excitement in Cleveland, I guess, probably, about the Browns. What else do you get excited about if you're in Cleveland?
Hey, it's not snowing for 5 seconds.
Right, yeah, that's what you get excited about. So the Browns, they've had a great offseason. Hats off to John Dorsey. Done a great job. There are people speculating that the Browns are a wild card sleeper this year. I don't know that I necessarily buy it. It's been a long time since the Browns have won a playoff game. So the question for you guys, Browns playoff wins in the next 5 years. The line is 0.5. So if they win a playoff game, that's the over. If they don't win a playoff game in the next 5 years, that's the under. What do you guys think?
Mason, you under to me?
Oh, I'll go. I am fully prepared to squash this hype that's going on out in Cleveland. Not a fan of it. They have not deserved it, or they don't deserve it. They've done nothing to deserve it. People need to just settle the frick down. No, I'm taking the under. Until the Browns, I think to their credit that John Dorsey has had a good offseason. They've brought in some pieces, but they're still Cleveland. And I think that if they're going to win a playoff game or not, it's going to come down to one thing, and that's quarterback play. You've got to have good quarterback play to win a playoff game. You don't have to necessarily have the best quarterback in the league to win a playoff game, but you've got to have good quarterback play. And I like Baker Mayfield. and this pains me to say because I like his fire. I like that he's an undersized guy. I like that he's chippy, all that stuff. He's fun to watch. But I think they missed on Baker Mayfield. I just do. We've seen a couple kind of shorter, not your stereotypical prototype, 6'5", 230-pound guys, whatever it is. We've seen some guys kind of like Russell Wilson who, they're able to run around a lot and they've got strong arms. They can throw the ball. That's kind of what Baker Mayfield is. And we've seen it work out a couple times, but that's not the norm. More often than not, those kind of guys, they don't work out. And even if they do, they're kind of a flash in the pan guy, and they get injured a lot. So maybe even if Mayfield has the talent, I just want to see if he can stay healthy. There's too many question marks for me to say that the Browns, when they've been as bad as they have over the past, 2 decades or whatever, when they've been as bad as they have, I don't think that they're going to win a playoff game in the next 5 years. Browns, change my mind. Give me something to believe in here, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I'll go next.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, you got it. You're excited.
Yeah, Tuesday when we did this, I took the under, but I just want to disagree with Haston, so I'm going to take the over. I think, you said that they missed with Baker Mayfield. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I don't know who else they would have taken that would have been better. Screw Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. I don't like those guys. And Josh Allen's whatever. He's from Wyoming. That's not even really a college. So I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna say, good career or not, Baker Mayfield is gonna have some Tim Tebow year where he plays out of his mind for no good reason and wins a playoff game against a team they probably shouldn't beat. So yeah, I'm gonna take the over.
Yeah, I guess I'm the deciding vote. One win over the next 5 years. I think it's important to realize 5 years is a long time. 5 years ago, the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl over the 49ers, and the 49ers are horrible now. And so, a lot can change in 5 years. John Dorsey is an incredible GM, I think. He built up the Chiefs, and I wish he was still in Kansas City personally. With that said, it's Cleveland. They're probably not going to win a playoff game.
That's true. That's a good point. Well, I guess we'll see. The Browns are interesting, so that's good, I guess. Well, that about finishes it for our show this week. We're going to give a couple of shout-outs real quick and then wrap up. My shout-out this week is going to a pair of brothers who have just been – I must be a sucker for people who are supportive of us on social media. These guys have been, liking all of our tweets and in these streets liking tweets, and they've been – suggesting some content for us, and they've been texting me, giving positive feedback, and just really stroking my ego. So I got to go with Alan and Eric Ottman. That's my shout-out this week. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Way to go, guys. And with that, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. All three of us have some teachers in our lives. I'll leave it at that. And I'm glad that Katie's not awake to be interrupting us. But I'll give our belated Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to the teachers in our lives.
Yeah, changing lives. Changing young lives. That's what we need.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm going to thank Alan and Eric Ottman for their participation, but I'm going to give them a formal warning. It's a very dangerous game to stroke my brother's ego, so you got to watch out with that. And John, I've got to disagree with you a little bit. I really think that my wife's interruptions actually make our show great. That's just my personal opinion. And I think that we're going to have her on in the next couple of weeks to cater to all our female listeners with her take on who the hottest college basketball coach is. My shout-out, with that being said, is going to her. She won the fourth quarter teacher award at her school this week, and she's a first-year teacher, so pretty impressive. Chandler, wrap us up.
Congrats, Katie, on that. We're glad you're not awake. Everybody, if you listen to us, if you made it to the end, congratulations. We're happy for you. Thanks for listening to us. We really appreciate it. And barring some technical difficulties, we'll do it again next week.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for waking up with us, guys.
Yeah, thanks for waking up. We're wrapping up now at about 6:01, so I don't even know what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. But thanks for listening to us, and we'll catch you next week on the crossover.